Good morning. My name is Volker Helsle. I'm happy to welcome you here in this introduction session for the newly established Carl Laemmle Institut at Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg. I've been most of my life at Filmakademie in Animationsinstitut, and as of this year we have a new institute, the Carl Laemmle Institut, and this talk is staged in a way that it gives a broad overview also on our background, but also then some very good insights in current projects and how we also work within project frames, funded project frames, and freelancers. So I will cover the first 15 to 20 minutes, and then Adrian Meyer will take over, and the final part of the presentation will be by Jonas Trottner. So let's get started. Let's just see the focus here. Okay. Yeah, Carl Laemmle Institute for Research and Media Innovation. So probably everybody knows who Carl Laemmle was, but for those of you who don't, Carl Laemmle was born in Laubheim, which is in Baden-Württemberg. And in 1884, he migrated into the United States. In 1912, he founded the film studio Universal Pictures in Los Angeles, and he played a significant role in the rise of Hollywood as we know it for its significance for film and media production. We are in contact with his great-grandniece. Her name is Rosemarie Laemmle-Hilb, and we asked her whether or not she thinks it's a good idea to use that name, and she welcomed it. Because from her we learned that one of the life mottos of Carl Laemmle was that it can be done, and that symbolized his deep belief in opportunities and the power of creative visions. And that's how the name was used then for a division for research and media innovation for all of Filmakademie. But first, let's take a look maybe back into history. So Filmakademie has been established in 1991. We are celebrating our 35th anniversary in fall this year. So please come if you have time. And in 2002, Animationsinstitut was established from the former Department of Digitale Bildgestaltung, and I think we've seen some people here in the audience that have been part of the Digitale Bildgestaltung back there. Animationsinstitut in charge of educating the students in animation, visual effects, animation effects producing, interactive media, and technical directing. I myself was senior lecturer for technical directing for more than 20 years and passed this on to Dr. Diana Arellano just recently. There has always been research projects at Animationsinstitut, and there were even research projects on the topic of the digital actor before the time, before 2002, before the official establishment of Animationsinstitut. I came to Animationsinstitut in 2003. I thought I would stay there for one project. I had a terminated contract, but it turned out that we've been quite successful in bringing in more projects, more funding, and that's how that research department did grow, and you'll see some examples on the following slides. Filmakademie in general has a very strong link to animation, game, and the visual effects industry. We require most of our teaching stuff from the industry directly, I would say 90%, and that makes sure that the topics that are taught are relevant to the industry. Yes, and our research work is always very linked to practical and applied research. And with that background, mid last year, the new director, Dr. Andreas Barreis, new director of Filmakademie, approached me and said, what do you think about bringing this to a new level, to a higher level where you can serve not just Animationsinstitut and the specific needs, but all departments of Filmakademie. And that is the idea of the Carl Laemmle Institut, which was then established officially in January this year. So we worked on a mission statement, and I bring to you the short, compact form. We also have that a bit more elaborative in 1.5 pages, but very simple. The Carl Laemmle Institut, and it on the following slides will always be often be abbreviated by CLI. The Carl Laemmle Institut at Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg is a globally unique institution within a film school that bridges the gap between applied research, teaching, and technology transfer. So 3 pillars. First of all, research. Through a strong global network, the CLI develops innovative tools and sustainable production strategies and evaluates them in real-life productions. Teaching. The CLI supports the relevant departments in integrating these cutting-edge technologies and methods into a future-proof curriculum, providing students with access to new prototypes, tools, software, and expert knowledge. And finally, technology and knowledge transfer. Through open source approaches, cross-innovation, and public outreach, the CLI promotes knowledge exchange within the creative industries and beyond. Now, meet the team. There's a core team of full-time employees, myself, and we have Simon Spielmann, who is our principal engineer, everything related to software development, principally, basically goes over his table. We have Jonas Trotno, who is also an engineer, but has a strong background in machine learning and AI, very useful in these days. And Dr. Alexander Kreische, who is a research and project manager. And then based on projects that we bring in by funding calls, either EU or regional calls, we scale up this team. So I'm happy to welcome all of these people because most of them just started a few weeks ago. We have Thomas Krüger, game engine and XR developer, Dr. Sevinch Eroglu, XR research engineer, Parisa Sairi, science communication, Jason Schülein, XR research and pipeline TD, and Katharina Muske, UI UX design and development. So these are all hired on a certain time frame because we have funding secured, but we also have smaller amounts of funding to do some research sprints. And one that you will meet today, one sprint and one person, is Adrian Meyer, who used to study at Filmakademie some years ago, and he will give you insights into some evaluation we did around generative AI. So, yeah, at the time of the establishment of the Carl Laemmle Institut, we identified 2 key areas in technology that would be very relevant for the years to come. The first of all, XR, extended reality, everything related to virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. And the other one, of course, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and generative AI systems. It's also, of course, one of the big topics here at FMX. So the next slide is a bit of an overview. It holds a lot of information, and I won't go too much into detail, but it kind of explains a bit why we identify extended reality as an important topic. So virtual production, which we also see as part of XR, has been a major topic in research projects for, I think, over 20 years now. And you can see here Motherland, for instance, or Dark Matter, both projects where we had access to the CryEngine, a very good game engine technology at that time. And you might say, yeah, game engines, everybody has access to game engines. But back then, actually, you had to sign and negotiate NDA contracts. It wasn't that accessible as game engines are today. Soon after, we had our first EU project, DreamSpace, led by the Foundry. And it was for us a bit of a, I would say, not challenge, but something new, because the administrative process in these EU projects is slightly different to regional projects, also to work in a consortium of international partners. DreamSpace did allow us to work on the first version of the virtual production editing tools to collaboratively work in virtual production environments, but An early partner back then was also NCAM, who provided us with the first version of a markerless camera tracking system. Back then it was quite bulky. You see that additional bar down there, plus a Linux workstation that size. NCAM was bought, I think, 2 years ago by Zeiss and is now being distributed under the name Syncraft. There's still NCAM employees from that time that we know that are now part of the Zeiss team. And we were also glad to be in DreamSpace because we could bring that technology early to the students. So for you to understand that this is also a benefit of the group, that they can be exposed to technology very early on. Moving on to Source, a project that also at an early point in time looked into machine learning for asset management and transformation with DNEG and Disney and others. Also first LED-wall shoots there. And then last year we finished 2 large projects, EU-funded projects, MaxR and EMIL. Just quickly, MaxR was a big consortium, 11 partners, a lot of UK partners, Foundry, Disguise, BBC, Improbable, and Nuke Stage was partly developed in MaxR. That's also why we're one of the first schools that got access to it. The image with the robot I'll explain on one of the upcoming slides. And EMIL was a project which is based on cascade funding, meaning that the consortium receives a lot of money that it then distributes into projects. So we got 5.6 million to distribute in projects between 250 and 500,000 euros. And for example, a lot of these XR projects were medical, therapeutical, XR gaming, not necessarily virtual production, but some were. For instance, XR IT, by Design Academy Eindhoven. You can see 2 small images of mocap actors. One is in Eindhoven in the Netherlands, the other one in Helsinki in Finland. And XR-IT is an infrastructure technology that allows you to run these productions simultaneously with a very low latency and enabling distributed virtual production. The last image is from Movers in Greece. They do markerless motion capture, which is really coming to a very high quality standard. Not exactly the standard you have when you have markers, but they offer you a cloud service in Europe where you can refine your results, including hand movement. So that's a bit of the background for virtual production and also the reason why we are involved in teaching and interdisciplinary workshops. So the set extension workshop, which happens at Filmakademie, that brings together different departments to work in a green screen environment, has been extended to a LED-wall rental system for 6 years, I think now. We also work with our sister Academy of Performing Arts on interactive theater plays, on the potential of XR in performing arts, which is very well received. And I'm happy to say that by late summer or early fall, we will have a fixed permanent installation in one of our studios, allowing us to bring virtual production to a lot more productions than currently at Filmakademie. So that background is partly also a reason why we've been very engaged in 2 more projects that just started, and I will quickly outline them to you. The first one is called Industrial Metaverse. It's a living lab and Reallabor, and it's based on a consortium of Fraunhofer IAO, IPA here in Vaihingen and ARENA2036, and of course, Carl Laemmle Institut at Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg. The idea is that companies from any industry can get in contact with the Living Lab to check on the potential use of Metaverse or XR applications and services for their use cases. That is done through quick checks. So we offer quick checks. It's basically a set of questions we ask to better assess the need of the individual company. And then we select some quick checks to be turned into exploring projects and finally demonstrators. And the idea here is really a use case for Metaverse and the XR potential for the small and medium-sized enterprises, KMUs, in the region of Baden-Württemberg. Actually, quick checks are open, so that a QR code guides you into the Cyberland community. So you have to be registered in this community, which probably you have done anyway, because it's a really cool platform. I recommend going there. The project just started 2 weeks ago, so there's not much to show from that side. And it is funded by the Baden-Württemberg Ministry of Economic Affairs, Labor and Tourism. The second project is VISTA, Virtuelle Immersive Standort und Architekturplattform, best translated to Virtual Immersive Location and Architectural Platform. The consortium here is led by RECOM Film from Stuttgart. Here he is, RECOM Film's the coordinator. Lohrmannarchitekten is a regional architectural bureau, not very big, and Carl Laemmle Institut. We also have an associated partner, Film Commission Region Stuttgart. They are marketing locations in Baden-Württemberg for film and media productions. The idea is to develop a platform for the automated production, administration, and use of photorealistic digital twins of real locations. So down there you see on the left side, that's the Marienwahl, or on the upper left is the Schloss Favorit, both locations that we were able to create quite efficiently. So you don't need any special hardware, drones and standard DLRS photographs are enough. The target domain here is really film, automotive, and advertisement, on automotive advertisement, VFX, location marketing, and of course architecture. Yeah, the idea is to turn real environments efficiently into high-quality interactive models. The same here. The project is like 4 weeks old, but there's an early demo of streaming these locations to your device if you have an iOS device at the FMX Market booth 2.5, and you can simultaneously interact with digital assets in that set as a demo to work on set planning, for instance. That project again is funded by the Baden-Württemberg Ministry of Economic Affairs, Labor and Tourism in the InvestBW program call. But aside from these official funded projects, and we also do collaborations with Studio Babelsberg, for instance, and that collaboration really came to us through the mutual interest in XR and AI innovation that is possible in filmmaking at the moment. What you see on the upper side is the Metropolitan backlot at Studio Babelsberg, a 15,000 square meter backlot for film and TV productions with diverse architectural styles. And the root of our collaboration really comes from a lecturer, a director of photography, who was asked to shoot in Studio Babelsberg, and he knew about some of the previous tools that are in development in our group, and he asked me, he said, how quickly can you scan the set and provide access to it so I can discuss the upcoming shoot with my director? And I said, it's not that complicated. So 2 people flew to Berlin, or took the train, I think. It took them half a day to create the basic data and then these models, which you've seen a 3D representation, but also point cloud representation. But that's not all. On the lower side, you see an image courtesy by Studio Babelsberg, a beautiful set the art department created for the Beauty and the Beast. And here's just some very recent prototypes and tests we did. What will happen is that I'll click on the chair on the left, which then, and then you can see magically that an asset is created, which I can move around in 3D space. The process of asset creation takes about 5 to 8 seconds, so it's sped up. And we're doing the same for the candlelight holder here. And the input is really just that image, nothing else, RGB data. And it allows you to extract these geometries, to rearrange them, to maybe discuss a different creative constellation in your team, which is quite significant, I find. So yeah, this and a lot more to come in this collaboration with Studio Babelsberg. And that brings me to my final slide of the presentation. Machine learning, AI is a huge topic. I'd like to start that we used to call it machine learning, and I'd like to stick with that term because it doesn't have so much intelligence in there. But it's actually true. I mean, there's a lot of things related to machine learning that have crossed our ways in the past years. But of course, what we're seeing with the generative systems and these immensely huge data sets that they're trained on is something that is very significant. And yeah. So I think the only thing worth mentioning is that we're seeing a bit of a difference in generative tools which do more intersect with the way of how creatives work or how we thought that we work. That might change in the future. But then there's also the tools and pipeline aspect of machine learning. And I think we would do good in separating both a bit. Just to give you also here a bit of background, actually in 2018 is when we wrote the proposal to start an AI lab at Filmakademie together with Hochschule der Medien, Stuttgart Media University, dedicated to animation and VFX. Baden-Württemberg did ask for many sectors to spin AI labs, so there's different expert domains. So that was the first, so to say, offering to the regional industry to engage with AI technology. At Filmakademie, we saw a desperate need to write a code of conduct for the students, how to work with AI. It didn't say much in 22. It mostly said that it's an interesting technology, you should discover it, you should play with it, but you should be transparent in its use in your projects and tell us about it. That has been recently replaced by our official Filmakademie AI policy. Earlier this year, I think ours the code of conduct had 1 page. This now has 3 or 4 pages. And what's also new in AI is that we have a staff position. We have Nira Boskurt, she's our AI officer, and she is in charge of overseeing all of the AI aspects, also the AI literacy. And we're very happy to have her, and I also have the opportunity to promote and announce something that Nira has been intensively worked on. It is called verifiable story production. And verifiable story production is a open governance framework that makes human decision-making auditable in AI-assisted media productions. So she published it, or she submitted it to SIGGRAPH, and I'm happy to say that it has been accepted for presentation in July later this year. But under the QR code, you can already see the public framework information that is published already. So just quickly on the upper side, you see that that's a trailer for a short film that we created, and a tool set which was crafted or initially crafted in the MaxR project. The idea is to use deep learning for character animation and to be able to lay out large parts of the animation, of the biped animation, in a workflow where artists, 3D animation artists, can still have full control over every movement and have a layered approach. That whole system is open source. It has been further developed also through an external AI developer, Jasper Friedrichs. And it's based on fair and traceable data, so also the data that we use, our own mocap data, we've published it. as Creative Commons. So yeah, that brings me, and this work, oh, by the way, has also been communicated at SIGGRAPH Asia last year by Jonas Trotno as part of the technical communication program. You will find the paper following the second QR code. And that concludes my introduction to our heritage, our history, and how it came to the Carl Laemmle Institut. And we have two more AI-related contributions. I'll start with the second one, which is the Colibri project from Jonas Trotno. But next now we'll hear from Adrian Meyer about an AI sprint on the happenings in the West Prague embassy, West German embassy in Prague in 1989, and our foreign minister back then, Hans-Dietrich Genscher. Thank you very much. We're here for questions afterwards. But it's a packed presentation, so maybe we have to be short on questions. Thanks.
All right. Hi. My name is Adrian Meyer. I'm a freelance VFX supervisor, pretty ex ex-Houdini TD, and by now tinkering quite a lot with Gen AI and AI in general. And I did a research sprint project commissioned by the CLI at Filmakademie, probing current Gen AI workflows under some certain criteria. And for that, we needed a good use case, a creative use case, how we could basically stress test these AI workflows. And Volker suggested a very important historic moment in German history, 1989 in Prague, the West German embassy, where the foreign minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher basically announced free passage to the West for the East German refugees. And there's just this one documented video that's pretty bad quality, as you can see, and that's the reference historic moment we chose. So yeah, you can see it's really bad quality, but that's the historic moment. Also, his voice got completely cut off at the end by the crowd, which is quite interesting. But our idea was now to stress test AI workflows and basically say, let's recreate that moment, but in a cinematic way, but making it authentic, keeping the architecture of the place, keeping Genscher's appearance, keeping the original voice, but also recreating that end part that got cut off. So that was kind of the creative task. The goals were quite broad. Firstly, historical accuracy and creative control. So to really match the architecture, the real face, the original speech, have active control over camera, framing, etc. Secondly, for that to be achievable, of course, a pipeline has to be set up. I chose ComfUI as the main orchestrator. And ComfUI is great, and it's used widely in the field, but it doesn't come as a studio usable tool with a pipeline. So you pretty much have to customize everything to make it workable in a professional environment. And with that, we also developed a render farm integration that was mainly developed by Holger Schöneberger, who is the developer of Royal Render, and it's the native render farm manager of the Filmakademie. So that allowed us to also do local inference at a larger scale. Another axis to look at was basically assessing ethically clean models versus pretty much all the rest. So there's models like Moon Valley's Mari or Adobe Firefly, who claim to have cleared training data sets. And then there's all the rest, which have a completely intransparent situation. And then we wanted to look at quality versus ethical defensibility, basically. And the last axis is closed source cloud models like Veo, Kling, Nano Banana, etc., versus open weight local models that run on your local hardware that are kind of open source, at least open weight, like WAN 2.2 or LTX2, etc. So for that, the tool landscape I tested was pretty wide. I think I tested pretty much every kind of relevant model that's currently out there or also was released during the project phase. And I also tried to document everything quite well and in detail, not only looking at tech specs, but also looking at kind of the legal aspect of things. So training data, how is your material used for model training, etc. So before actually starting, I had to build a bit of a pipeline foundation because again, Studio ComfyUI itself is pretty naked. So things like a proper distributed install across machines and render farm clients, a proper project structured workflow, professional media I/O tools with color handling, ACES, OCIO, EXR support, because you cannot just work with PNGs and MP4s where you have no control over. And then, as I said, the render farm integration. So that already took quite a long time. Probably we underestimated that a little bit. So that's how a typical ComfyUI graph would look like. So now to the more creative task. Once the pipeline was kind of in place, the approach was to start with an animatic. So pretty classic VFX animation workflow. Basically do a very rough previs. And I decided to do five shots and record my voice and record myself speaking and acting Genscher's performance basically, and then using AI voice cloning tools to turn my voice into his voice. And then just use some very rough reference images and Google Earth 3D data to do a rough previs.
Wir sind zu Ihnen gekommen, Ihnen mitzuteilen, dass heute Ihre Ausreise möglich geworden ist.
Yeah, so pretty rough previs, but that already laid the basis for shot length, really locked down the perspective, how the AI shots should look. So they weren't allowed to be any random perspective, but they had to be that perspective. And also the voice for the AI lip syncing was locked down with that. So I roughly split the pipeline in around 10 phases, which I will go over briefly now. So I started with actually generating a very rough 3D proxy geometry with an image to 3D AI model. The quality is la-la, but it turned out that it actually was good enough to navigate in the 3D scene in Houdini and do proper shot staging and get an idea for the 3D geometry of the scene. And then I placed in some rough 3D stand-ins in the scene to also get a feel for that. And now this reference image combined with this super rough grayscale Houdini render, which was then turned into a depth map, was fed into a AI model, in this case a local model where you have proper net control over. So we really used the depth map to say you have to use that perspective. And that worked pretty well. With other models who don't have these control mechanisms, it didn't work. The perspective just never matched. So then the next step was to basically create the crowd. And the image on the left is pretty much the only image that's available of that moment. So it's black and white. It's like 4 by 4 pixels, it feels, and super dark. So now the task was, okay, I have to restore that. And that's much more than a normal restoration task. So I used that same local model again that runs on your local hardware, which is a German model, by the way, from Black Forest Labs. And that was the outcome. Of course, that wasn't the first outcome. It was probably the 200th iteration of that until I got that result. And that's pretty good. It really catches that vibe of the time, etc. The problem is I also gave it reference images of that foreign minister Genscher, but it never got him right. It's a completely different character. So the learning was basically you can't ask too much at once of these models, at least right now. So the approach is to basically use a VFX approach and split it up in passes. So next thing I did was paint him out in green, use 2 other reference images and tell the model to in-paint him. And now the model only has to take care of exactly that task and leaves the rest of the image alone, which works perfectly. So now I had the crowd ready. Now it was time to place that crowd into that main scene and also relight it. So this is how it looks when I basically combined this base architecture image with the crowd in daylight still to have full visual control. And the result is okay. Faces are a bit distorted again. So yeah, that's normal. Now I relighted it, this time with a cloud model from Google, Gemini 3 Pro or Nano Banana, how it's usually referred to. The relighting is pretty good. Again, this is probably the 200th iteration of that. But the problem is it's a completely different main character again. I was pretty forgiving with the other characters. They just had to look plausible, but he had to be right? So what do we do? Well, additionally to that, if you look closely, we have a lot of intertangled hands, his eyes, like super weird, faces are scary. So of course that's not acceptable. So the problem is if you tell a model like Nano Banana, fix all these characters, it just fails to do it because it's too many characters, it's too complex, even with these high-end models. So the approach is to go basically into Photoshop and then use AI models within Photoshop, Nano Banana Pro, to select each character individually and do like manual and AI-based tweakings. This could be automated more, but the problem is you need that control to really get the results right. So I also removed some characters who look too weird, etc., fixed all the hands, so that's the clean working base now. All right, time to generate video out of that. Now you might think, okay, let's just put that into a model and generate the video. You tell it what camera move it should do, and you're good. Yeah, not really. The problem is the models, they're really hard to control how exactly the camera movement work, how much the characters move, etc. So if you really know what you want, it's probably not a good idea. So the better idea is to actually not only give it a first frame, but also to give it a last frame. And then it basically smartly interpolates between those two. That means you really have to make sure to get that last frame right. If you don't move a character, he's going to stay static throughout the scene. So that means, of course, again, a lot of manual, semi-manual work using AI models to basically tell it to, for every character, move it in time, like 5 seconds, make it look a little different, etc. So, and also do the camera end position with parallax, etc. So then I fed that into a video model. In this case, Luma Ray was the winner. And that's the result. It might look okay-ish here, but the quality is quite degraded again, and that was the best result I got. But it's quite okay. Problem is he doesn't speak, right? So we have to do the lip sync. Also, the models currently you can't give a specific audio and then do the lip sync at one go. They can generate audio, but then it's going to be random audio basically. So I cropped in to the image and then did lip sync only on him. Here you can see how bad the diffusion artifacts are again. Okay, but the lip sync actually worked quite well. So remember that was my voice, AI transformed into his voice, and then lip synced to his appearance. So now kind of the last magic step happens. Everything is still quite full of diffusion artifacts. We are at 1080p resolution. We have limited dynamic range. And it's all, for me as a VFX artist, is all a bit, it doesn't feel so nice. But luckily, there are models and techniques to really enhance this. And yeah, in this case, that was actually a Topaz enhancement model that really gets rid of those diffusion artifacts quite well. Upscales it to 4K, and then I used another model, which is really recent, that actually finally lets us upscale from SDR to HDR in quite an okay way. And then I did some classical post-processing, lens effects, color grading, film emulation, etc. And that's the final result. It's just 4 seconds, so I'm going to play it multiple times, and the other shots will hopefully follow later, but we first needed to get this kind of vertical slice right, get the pipeline right. So yeah, that's it.
Um Ihnen mitzuteilen.
Yeah, so it's a fully AI-generated shot. Every pixel in there is AI-generated, no CG, no real footage. Of course, it's all based somehow on real footage. And it's 4K, HDR, it's gradable. So yeah, I think I was quite surprised actually how good the quality turned out, but that meant I had to put in a lot of work. Another part was the documentation. So the goal was to basically provide full inference provenance for IP defensibility and juristic claims and stuff like this. This was less for this specific project, but more to serve as kind of a sandbox lighthouse project to come up with these structures. And the way I did it was loosely aligned with Filmakademie's verifiable story production framework that Volker mentioned. But I also took a little bit of my own approach because it was, such a production is really dynamic. And the way I did it was basically AI automate the creation of a large, extensive data Excel document that documents all the output parameters, the seeds, the prompts, the input images, the output images. So there's a lot of metadata collected, also the inference cost and everything. I think long term, this would rather be handled with proper F-track shot grid integrations that run directly from ComfUI, etc. But for now, that did the trick. And of course, I used a lot of AI automation to handle that. I didn't do that on my own. So what's the takeaway? Well, it seems to be possible to do a cinematic, pseudo-historically accurate Gen AI project, but definitely at heavy manual cost. It's still bottlenecked. Multi-character consistency is still a problem. Hands, gaze is a problem. And we have that big ethical data quality gap, basically. But of course, it's improving really fast. We're talking about weeks and months, not years. Platform direction-wise, it's pretty much all about ComfUI today, but some of you might know the Foundry-acquired grip tape nodes, which is very similar to ComfUI, and I think this is probably where the future of our VFX industry is heading in regards of AI. And hopefully we'll find the time to finish the remaining shots. And last but not least, also for my own pipeline, for my freelance visual effects work, I'm working a lot with ComfUI. So I also needed to build a proper pipeline for my studio, basically. So to handle OCRO, ACES, XR, reading, writing, color transforms, and stuff like that. And also I implemented 2 open source repos for some very VFX relevant models that are not native in ComfUI yet. So if you're in VFX and you are planning to use ComfUI, have a look at those repos. They are open source since yesterday. They might be a good base for building an own pipeline. That's it, and thanks a lot. That leads me to Jonas.
Yeah, hello from my side as well. I want to continue with AI, but not with generative AI. I'll talk about my startup called Colibri. It's a cooperation with the Film Academy. It's not a spin-off, but there's huge overlaps in demand with Film Academy, so we have a cooperation ongoing. It's a software startup that tackles media management. Media management in the sense that you have a big archive of audio, video, text, image material, and you want to search it, you want to make it smart, and Colibri will solve that, but locally. So all AI services are run locally on your own devices, never anything uploaded to the cloud. So what problem does it want to solve? It wants to solve the chaos you have in media productions, in communication departments, but also in private usage, where you have loads of photos, videos, scans, recordings scattered across multiple drives, folders, and so on. And you usually only have a file-based search possibility where you can directly find files that you named properly. There are tools in the cloud that would analyze images when they are uploaded there, but usually with huge data sets that doesn't make too much sense, and you're also sharing your data. Oftentimes, for example, if you're looking into more private material or customer material, it's not allowed to upload them in the cloud anyway. So you have to have a local processing pipeline. And also you want to have a software or a framework or a solution that is long-term, especially when you're looking into archives, that should not be depending on services that might shut down, change terms of condition, and so on and so forth. All of these problems are addressed by Colibri. Colibri will aggregate all your data into one single archive. It will run on desktop systems like macOS, Windows, Linux, and also mobile devices soon. They are always in sync, so it's meant not only for individuals, but also for teams. You can share your collections across an entire team. Think of a studio or a communication department. And you buy it once and own it forever. So you can buy a license, analyze as much as you want. You don't need to buy tokens or anything. You will just run it locally, and only when there is major updates, you can buy an upgrade. But the version you bought will always be yours. And it's meant, for example, for photographers, documentary filmmakers, journalists, VFX studios, managing backplates, a lot of applications actually. So what does Colibri actually analyze? It's visually describing your entire material. It's describing what happens in videos, what is visible in photos, describing objects, but also entire sceneries. It will automatically detect text across all of these media files, extract keywords. It will transcribe audio files, also translate audio files all locally, and then provide a full text search about the entire archive. So you can have a natural language input. For example, ask, can I get all my material of person X talking about topic Y, or give me all the images of a city at night with cars driving through a road, and it will find it and provide it to you. It runs on only 8 GB of GPU memory, so it's very efficient. The idea is that I don't have one single AI model that is doing all of the jobs, but I'm actually using 13 different AI models that do very specific tasks, like transcribing, visually describing, a small LLM that is doing text-based work. And all of these are cleverly combined and work with each other to provide this understanding of the entire material. And it's all modular, so it can be easily extended with new functionalities once they come up. There's also different possibilities to look through your material. Either you go for a standard search and grid-based view, but you can also see there's, for example, a knowledge graph where you can click through topics that are mentioned or visible in the footage, timeline view, and so on and so forth. And also the original material and the preview and metadata is stored individually from each other, so you can have one big, for example, network access storage where you store all your media, but still you will be able to search through it on all devices, even when disconnected from the NAS. Why it matters? So first goal was to push digital sovereignty without sacrificing possibilities. So the idea was, I want to have the smart features of AI, but I don't want to share my material online. I don't want to rely on cloud services. So I decided for a privacy by design approach where there's no connection, so you can go completely offline. It's also independent. As I said, it's buy once, own forever. And it's built around European standards and is greatly extendable in the future. So there is a cooperation contract with Filmakademie now, signed in July last year. We will be looking into applying it in the post-production department on the actual large film database of Filmakademie to make it searchable. And also student projects will use it, archives, I'm in contact with them, as well as documentary filmmakers and studios. There will be, for example, for VFX studios, a lot of opportunities to manage backplates, HDRIs. Think of it, you're in a virtual production studio and quickly need to exchange something, or you are in post-production and quickly need to exchange your backgrounds, find something in your own material that you actually own. You can do that with Colibri. And that brings me to this last slide of mine. You can actually have a live demo here at FMX. We have a booth at the marketplace. It's booth number 2.5. It's shared between the Carl Laemmle Institut that Volker previously introduced, and you can get a live demo of Colibri there. And the beta will be released very soon. You can already apply for it on the website by scanning this QR code. Thank you.
Yes, remember it can be done. So thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Adrian. Any questions from the audience? No? That's okay, because we have to run to the booth anyway. We're here all day. You find us at booth 2.5 on the marketplace. Should you want to talk to us, please just step by. Thank you. Bye.